everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the Alpha Female Chronicles podcast. I'm your host, Linsay. I'm the creator and author of the blog, the podcast, and the book, Alpha Female Chronicles, a poetry collection that is available on the Friesen Press website. For today's episode, I have, as usual, my partner in crime, Dinny. Dinny, how's it going?
It's going great. I'm back from vacation, fully rested, ready to take on this new episode with you.
Ooh, with the vacay glow, the post-vacay glow. And back by popular demand, Cousin Sam. How you doing, cuz?
I'm doing great. Happy to be back. I wish I could say I was coming back off vacation. I definitely saw the pics, though. I was a little jealous. But yeah, I'm here. Glad to be back and ready to talk my talk for the fellas.
Well, all right. We're happy to have you back, to have you with us, to give a male perspective to all things alpha female. On today's episode, we'll be discussing not just one, but two poems. So we got a little bonus poem today. And what we'll be discussing mostly is the 5 love languages. I know it's been a hot topic for a little while nowadays. A lot of people have had the opportunity to read the book by Gary Chapman, The 5 Love Languages, a book I've purchased, I think, 2 years ago, because a few of my friends have read it and gave me some pretty good feedback. And the book essentially discusses what these 5 love languages are. First, there's acts of service, there's quality time, there's physical touch, there's receiving gifts, and words of affirmation. So acts of service, basically what the book explains is that acts of service is doing something for someone. Let's say an act of service could be helping your mom with groceries. You tell your mom, oh, it's okay, mom, I got this. I'll go grocery shopping for you. Or you could tell your spouse, it's okay, I'll do the dishes tonight. That could be an act of service. Quality time is time spent with someone you love or you enjoy being with. Quality time would be maybe going out for a coffee, well, not in COVID, but normally going out for coffee with someone and just sitting at the coffee shop for hours, just talking, just having a good time, spending quality time together, having a good conversation, spending that precious time with someone uninterrupted, giving your full attention to that person. So that could be quality time. Physical touch, well, there's the obvious, sex, but there's also kissing, there's touching, holding hands, giving hugs, receiving gifts. Well, that's self-explanatory, giving gifts, whether it doesn't have to be a huge gift. It doesn't have to be a Mercedes. It doesn't have to be a huge ring. It could be little things like, let's say you're out shopping and you see a beautiful sweater that you think that your sister might like, oh, that would be nice. Just giving that gift as she receives that gift, that's one love language. And the last one, words of affirmation, could be words of encouragement. Let's say your spouse finally decided to take out the trash. You're like, look at you. Look at my man taking out the trash. Look at my man. That's my man right there. That could be words of affirmation. Or it could be complimenting your spouse on their appearance. Let's say a husband and his wife, they're going out, and as she's getting ready, he looks at her like, damn, girl, you work in that dress today. Simple things, words of affirmation. They could be any type of word of encouragement, like help just by saying something to encourage someone to accomplish something. If they're working on a project, you're telling them, you got this, you're working hard, your hard work is going to pay off, keep at it, everything's going to work out. Those are words of affirmation. And how it translates into the poem, the first poem that we have today, the words you speak in that poem we see two love languages. We have, first, we have words of affirmation and also quality time. I'll read the first, I'll read the first stanza of the poem. The words you speak to me will always remain engraved in my memory. Meaningful, meaningful thoughts you uttered, insightful remarks eloquently versed, weigh heavy on my mind. I'll read the third stanza. Your words linger on long after they have departed from your lips. Your being shines through every sentiment evoked, with every opinion expressed. The simple intonations of your voice speak volumes on your spirit, your mind, those hidden inner workings of you. The eyes may be the windows to the soul, but words are the pathway to your mind. Now, with that being
It's that third stanza for me. I'm not gonna. Definitely.
Oh yeah, that one right there for sure.
It's, I have my moments, I have my moments where I'm deep,
Yeah, that was deep. That was super deep. Yeah,
Thank you.
that was tough. Yeah.
Thank you.
And I was so I read the poem when you sent it to me. I read it several times. I read it today as well. And what I love about it is it always checks me. Like when I read something like that, I'm like, dang, like of course you want, like I think from the first stanza you go, I think this guy is somebody whose words kind of like you're like, oh, some of those are meaningless, like, and then it's like the third stanza is like, no, like, but I'm still feeling you. Like, you know what I mean? Like you're still there. And I think it's like a battle of being both guys, right? Like you don't want to be the guy who just talks and like, she looks back at and she's like, oh, like, this guy was just all fluff. But then you want to be third stanza who's like, you always like the ego wants to always know, like, yeah, like I'm like, yes, I'm still there, low key. I'm still there. Like
Okay. I'll
it's always tough. Always tough.
let me give you a little background story on that poem, because there's always a background story with my poems. So this was written around the same time as the poem "A Guy Like You."
Mm,
Mm-hmm.
okay. Yeah, I remember him.
So basically, this poem is about the other guy and how that guy was kind of showing promise. He was showing that he had some kind of potential.
Yeah.
The quality of the quality time that I had with the other guy was kind of starting to have a real effect on me. I was into that guy. He was
Yeah.
it's not that he was saying the right things just to say the right things, because some guys do that, just to get a girl, but he was actually saying things that were, that were deep, that were really, like, to me, they were really meaningful. They were really resonating within me. And it was a new experience for me to be with a guy that was that deep. I'm not saying that anybody that I was involved with previously wasn't deep, but I'm just saying this guy showed such a level of maturity in his thoughts and in his actions as well. Like he was a bit more grown than most of the guys that I had been involved with prior to that. So to me, I found that refreshing, and it translated in the words that he spoke. So to me, it hit like a different chord when you would speak. I was like, whoo. I was like, that's deep.
Little power behind
His
the
words came right at you.
Exactly. The words came right at me. And he would say stuff to encourage me with my writing, so it kind of helped me to be more inspired when it came to writing poetry or posting stuff on my blog at the time. And I benefited from these words. So that was really, to me, that was something like, so it was so special to me at that time. And also the words he spoke were like words of affirmation, but it was also the quality time spent while he was saying these things, it's like he was like feeding into like two love languages at the same time. Back then I didn't know they were love languages, but right now I realize that, you know, at that time that guy was able to kind of provide something for me, you know.
Yeah, he was addressing two needs in one.
Exactly. And he was able to, you know, fill what the book calls the love tank. So on that note, no, Sam,
Yeah.
what would you say are your primary love languages? If you were to rank all five on a scale from 1 to 5, which one would be number 1, number 2?
1 to 5. Okay, so I read the book every year just because it's like
A refresher.
yeah, you know, and I've noticed, you know, throughout years that it's changed. You know, as we grow, we have different needs. After you come out of certain relationships, your needs for another relationship are different. You know, so it's good to kind of like know where you're at and like what kind of things are gonna like benefit you at the time. I've done the quiz, so I can tell you my top three. I'm gonna need to be reminded about the other two. Number one is physical touch. And I know when everybody hears that, like you said, the first thing you hear is like sex, and it's like, you know, it's like whatever. But I spent 2 years in a long distance relationship where we didn't get to see each other a lot. So like that need for physical touch or just a physical presence in itself, like made sense to me after I retook the test, you know. And then it was a tie between quality time and acts of service. I know me myself, I try to like take on a lot of things by myself, and you know, you always want to, you know, don't want to ask for help for stuff, and you know, it can kind of get to that point. So like acts for service for me are just basically like taking things off my plate. And I think that one kind of edges out quality time because I'm really intentional about my time. So if I'm with you, that's the quality you're gonna get, because otherwise I wouldn't be with you, like period. I'll be doing something else. But I think acts of service edges out because I'm often like needing things taken off my plate. And then, you know, I think the other two are what? Words of affirmation.
And receiving gifts.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna say those two aren't important. I'm not a big gift guy, but I do like the thinking of you. Like when I think of giving gifts, it's just you know, I'm thinking of you. That could be like writing me a letter, or you know what I mean, a note, or you know, just putting out my favorite dessert or something. You know, something like something small. It's just like a thinking of you moment. And then words of affirmation, like they're great. Like I love words of affirmation, but I also tell myself a lot of words of affirmation. So it's like that need for that isn't quite there. It's always encouraged, but I don't think the need for it or the hunger for like words of affirmation are there. I think I'd rather my partner or somebody, a loved one, to like show me instead of tell me. But always tell me you love me too. You know, that always helps. But you know, show me too. Yeah, show me too. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. Ludni, what would you say is your primary or are your primary love languages, and how would you rank the other ones?
Rank them. Well, for me, the most important one is quality time. And with that, it has to be it's a tie with acts of service. So like Sam said, you know, I'm somebody that usually handles most of my business on my own. So being with somebody who is open and willing and even like eager to help me out, for me it's like it's 100%, it's a win. I'm like, oh my God, you know, you want to take my car? Oh, Jesus, thank you. So these are the two for me. It's a tie. And then you have words of affirmation. It comes third, physical touch, and then receiving gifts. Receiving gifts for me, it's not really like something that's really important because I am somebody I value more the time spent with somebody than something that they give you. Although I am very much a collector, so I have every birthday card, Christmas, Valentine's Day card, like I have all of them in a box.
That's called a hoarder. That is not called a collector.
Not hoarding.
That is called a hoarder.
It is not hoarding because they're organized and they're meaningful. Thank you. So yeah, so that's how it would tie in for me into words of affirmation too. Is just like those little notes that I get either from my family, my brother, my sister, my godmother, words that show me, on every special occasion how much they appreciate me. Like I get words of affirmation in any type form possible, but those are like special, so it's a gift that's in the form of a word, and I just like to keep them.
That's very sweet. It's very sweet, and there's nothing wrong with that. Stop shaming people.
Thank you.
This is not the platform that you're a guest, man.
Yeah, I would definitely want my girl to keep all my stuff too.
For sure. There you go.
Yeah, just don't try to give it back to me if we broke up, because that's gonna hurt. Like, don't try to give it back to me. That's gonna hurt. Don't do that. Just throw them away. Just throw them away.
That just hurts. That's just mean. That's
cruel. Hey.
It happens. Like some people, some women, some men get out of the relationship and they don't even want to return the gifts. They're like, you know what? Screw this. They just box them up, throw them away. And I'm like,
throw it away.
It's always scandalous. I'm like, you could just send it back. Like postage is really cheap.
The only thing I want back is a ring. That's the only thing. That's the only thing. Everything else you can keep. Everything else you can keep.
You know what? Let's dive into that. Have you guys ever given back gifts that were given to you by an ex?
Nope. It's mine.
I agree.
It's mine.
I agree. But okay, we're talking about like giving back, but how about you keep it? You'll keep it? You won't throw it away after the relationship is ended? You will keep it?
I personally, well, you know what? My mom, I remember I was in this relationship with somebody that was older, and he had bought me like a bunch of clothes and stuff. And when we broke up, I was boxing everything to return it. And my mom was like, no. My mom said, hell no. Yeah. She's like, he bought it. You're keeping it. She's like, no way. Like, you had to endure that relationship. And I was like, oh my God, like it was not so bad, at least in the beginning. And she's like, exactly. So this is like payment for your time. So you're keeping everything. And I'm like, what? But given the fact that for me, I've always had a thing with receiving gifts. Anytime that somebody like spends any outrageous amount of money on me, I'm completely rid of that. I don't know how to act. Like, I'm just, thank you. Not because it's not something that I didn't necessarily want, but I'm more of the type of person that, if I don't buy it for myself, like I don't want to get it from somebody else. It's just a weird mentality.
Is that a thing of like, because I'm kind of like the same way, right? I'm hard at getting gifts because I always think, okay, well, how do I reciprocate? When somebody does something to me, I'm like, okay, well, how can I and that's why I think I'm not big on getting, because when I give somebody something, I give just because like I want to give it, and it's like, why can't I understand that somebody might want to do that for me, So is it like an issue of like, dang, like how do I reciprocate like this large purchase in a, like, you know what I mean, without making a large purchase, like,
well, there's that one too. There's that, and then in like, to tie it up in with like the love language things, I was listening to a podcast like not too long ago, and the lady was talking about the fact that you can read up on the love languages, figure out what's what are the ones that are important for you. But if you're not applying that principle on yourself, then, you won't know how to how to accept the love that you need from somebody else, right? So that's kind of made me realize that, I'm funny, like I'm really funny about gifts, because generally I'm not the type of person to like buy something for myself just because. So then if somebody's buying something for me, I'm like, like, would I have bought it for me, or not because I can't
get you something.
Please, thank you. I'm practicing, so why not? So that was it. But my mom was like, no, like you should not return the gift. This is payment for your time wasted. And I was like, no, that's just wrong, Mom. And she's like, nope. She's like, listen, I've been married longer than you are. So
she knows.
She knows.
I genuinely think the only thing a guy would want back is the ring. Like, and that's because that was supposed to be a forever thing. So if that's not going to be a forever thing, then like all the other stuff is like, even though it's materialistic, it's not as materialistic as like clothes or like, stuff like that.
The ring has symbolism that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, you make interesting points. I would.
Yeah, but don't try to sneak out of there. We got to know your 5 too.
My love languages are, my top 3 are similar to Lunny's top 3. So my number one is quality time. I'm a sucker for quality time. To me, quality time is the simplest way to fill my tank. Like it's ridiculous. I could spend like 5 minutes talking on the phone with like a friend, and it just fills me up. I just love like hanging out with my friends. We don't even have to do anything like particularly like special, or we don't have to go out and get dressed and all that. Just spending time like chilling at home, cracking jokes. To me, that fills my tank.
An intimate time.
Exactly. So with a love interest, spending time like just having a conversation, like we could be like on the phone, like watching a TV show together at the same time and just making comments. And to me, that's quality time, and it's just simple things, like when I go visit my niece and my nephew, it's just playing with them, like it just makes me so happy. But it's the little things, like it doesn't have to be like 3 hours, or it could be like 5 minutes, 20 minutes, and it just I don't even have the words to explain how it just makes me feel on the inside. Just spending that quality time with someone, to me, it's everything. So that's my number one. Number 2 is acts of service. Listen. Once I'll tell you a little story. There was this one time where one of my friends was having like a potluck at their place. So a lot of my friends, like we were going there, bringing like different like meals and stuff and whatever. And I was really tired that weekend because I had just moved into my first apartment. So I was like, yo, I'm exhausted. And I asked one of my friends, would you mind driving? Because there was a bunch of us that were going there from the same area. She was like, no, I'm sorry, I'm tired, I can't. And I was like, okay. So I drove everyone, and it was pretty far. And then I drove back that night. And then a few months later, we were going to another one of our friends for like a brunch. And the same friend that I had asked to drive, she was like, you know what, let's say I got this, I'll drive us there. I was like, oh my gosh, you're amazing, I love you. Because the simple act of driving me somewhere, it's just so comforting, because you know how exhausting it is to always drive people like places. I don't mind, I love helping out people, but sometimes I'd like someone to drive me.
Oh yeah, trust me, I know. I do it like ever since I got a car. I've been like in and out, driving everybody, going to pick up drunk people, all that stuff. And I remember one year I rebelled and I said, I am not driving. So everybody take your freaking cab. I ended up going to like this party, not knowing how I was going to get home. But I'm like, you know what, doesn't matter. Like I did not drive, so I could take a cab if I want to. And then a friend of mine that kind of came in later, he's like, Lidney, listen, I'll just take you home. And I'm like, oh. I was like, oh my God, thank you. So now like every time that I'm going somewhere with a group of friends, I always like wait a few minutes to see if somebody's going to like offer to drive everybody. And I'm like, oh yeah, come pick me up, please, because you kind of don't get those opportunities once you become a driver. You become the chauffeur for mom, for sister, for brother, for father if needed, for grandfather, aunt, niece. You become everybody's go-to person. Like, drive me there, drive me there.
The Uber driver, your designated Uber driver.
Yeah, everybody thinks like when you're 16, it's like, oh yeah, I get to drive. It's like, no, you get to drive, but everybody else. Yeah, like, because you got to have somebody driving too. Like, nobody's just riding around with you just to cruise the streets. Like, nah, you're on duty. You're going to the store. You're taking everybody to the gas station. You're doing all the stuff. So, yeah, driving's not always perked up to be.
No, it's not. No, it's not. And I've come to realize that in my adult age. So having like someone just offer to drive me somewhere, it's just amazing. And it's not just that, but one of the main reasons why I would say acts of service has become one of my top love languages is basically because of my health. Sometimes I get fatigue. Sometimes I get joint pain. So, I'm not always in the best shape to get things done or to drive myself places. Most of the time I will do it regardless, but it's always nice to know that someone can help me out doing tasks for me to help me out. Having people like volunteer to do things for me, and when it comes out of nowhere, they're like, oh, it's okay, I'll take care of that for you. And I'm like, really? You would do that for me? That for me? Really? That's so sweet.
Love me.
Number one MVP.
Oh my gosh, I have a friend who I call my MVP because she is the embodiment. She is the quintessence of acts of service. She is known among my group of friends as the MVP because she always comes through. She always does. And to her, it's like, oh yeah, I'll do it. Oh yeah, I'll take you. And we always look at her like, you are sent from above. So whenever I have someone that's available to help me out, and when they volunteer, it's just even better because I don't have to ask. Because sometimes I don't like to ask. I don't know if it's because I'm, I have too much pride, or I think I can handle everything. Sometimes I don't like to bother people. So when people around me volunteer to help me out with something or to get something for me, so I don't have to go out and get it myself, that's just the best. After that, so the first one that I have is quality time, then acts of service. I would say the third one would be words of affirmation. I'm not someone who thrives off of like words of affirmation or words of encouragement. It's nice. I mean, I don't mind it, but I'm not fueled by it. I know like there are some people who are fueled by it. If they don't get like words of affirmation on a regular basis, the love tank is low. It's on empty, it's on E, but I'm okay. Like you, Sam, like I'm able to kind of like speak words of affirmation to myself. Maybe I should do it more, I don't know, but it's not something that is necessary, but it's appreciated. After that, I would say gifts, receiving gifts. I'm not big on gifts. I'd rather give gifts than to receive them. It's nice to have gifts, but I mean, if I don't get one, I'm okay. I like a point that you made, Sam, is I like the intention behind receiving the gift, meaning that the person was thinking about me. That's the thinking about me part that appeals to me more than giving like a material gift. It's intent. It's, the thought behind it, the care that was given, when that person was choosing the gift, when they were thinking about me, that means that they know what I like. They know the style of clothing I like, or the type of chocolate I like.
It's a difference between getting a girl flowers and an edible arrangement. Like there's a difference. Like they're both, along the same lines, but some girls you get them flowers, some girls you get them the edible arrangement.
That's so true though.
There's levels to it,
Absolutely.
Yeah. Some girls be like, why you give me some flowers? Like, you're going to get me something. You could have spent this $60 on some food. Like,
I No, right? And I want to give an honorable mention to food. Food should be considered a love language. If you bring, I remember watching Sarah Jakes Roberts' podcast, Woman Evolved, and
She's good.
she mentions often that food is her love language, and it made me think. I was like, you know what? That will be my honorary love language, food. If you bring me food, I will love you forever. If
Food is mood.
food,
Then it should be considered as a gift then. There you go.
listen, food can be anything.
Quality time, acts of service.
Acts of service, physical. If you hold my hand as you give me food, physical touch. I mean, it embodies so many love languages. I'm just giving it an honorable mention.
All of them. It's all.
Okay, good.
After that, I would say dead last. I would put physical touch. I'm not cold. I'm not a cold person. I will hug a friend, okay, but I'm not touchy-feely like that. I mean, if I give you a hug, consider yourself special. If I hold you in my arms, if I put my arm around you, if I give you a little pat on the back, or
attaboy.
You got to be special, because I don't touch people like that. I don't like people touching me like that. So it just depends on the person I'm with. If I'm really close to you, if we've been through it together, if we've known each other from like way back, I'll accept physical touch, but other than that, I'm good.
So how does that work for a partner who may want to give physical touch and may also require it?
The thing is, it's someone that I am attracted to. I have no problem with physical I have no problem. Like I said, like if I'm close to you, if I feel some kind of connection with you, whether it's friendship or if it's love or if it's attraction, physical attraction, I have no problem with physical touch. The people who don't fit in those categories do not touch me. Do not, stay away from me.
This is for bubble members only. These languages are bubble members only.
Exactly.
But there's also a nuance too, because I've realized that a lot of times in relationship we'll project our own love languages on the other person and kind of feel frustrated or or not, what's the word again? Frustrated or
unfulfilled?
Vexed if the person doesn't receive it just because it's not part of their love language, and it's relationships is about learning what floats your boat and what floats his or her boat as well.
Right. And
I mean, I hear that, but it's and I think I've done that too. It's you say I projected mine onto somebody, but we give what we need, right? So I think as long as you're if I need quality time and you're not giving it to me and I'm setting up quality time with you and you're not wanting to do this, right? Then it's okay, well, that's just blatantly, it's not a thing of they're not receiving it the right way. It's yo, this is you didn't do this for me, so I'm taking it the instance to do it myself. And then now you're shutting it out. So I think that's a different thing than kind of saying oh,
absolutely.
You need to feel loved because I gave you a gift because I love when I get gifts. But it's no, if I've been giving you gifts, you know what I mean? That's because hey, this is how I'm showing you how I get love. Maybe you'll give it a little bit back. You know what I mean? I'm showing you how to love me the same way you should be showing me how to love you, type thing.
Right.
Nobody's gonna know unless they know.
Right.
Yeah, but I think based on the ranking, it should be adjusted, in every relationship. So for you, Sam, quality time is kind of super important because you are very respectful and mindful of your time. So if, for example, you have somebody taking off something of your plate off your plate, then it addresses your love language. And if that person's love language is acts of service, or like kind of something that complements, it kind of fills both of you together, right? Whereas if the most important one is words of affirmation and for the other one is physical touch, but then you don't say anything to me, I'm like, well, don't touch me though. Like, if you can't talk to me, don't touch me.
The moment you say that, the guy's gonna do whatever you tell him to do. The moment you say, "Don't touch me," hold up. Let's slow it down. Tell me what I got to do. What was that? You need me to say something?
What happened?
I'll say whatever you want.
When I'm thinking about what you just said, it makes sense, because the only way for me to be willing to give physical touch is if I would get quality time, and I would see the effort into putting put the effort you put into quality time for me to respond with physical touch, if that's the person's like primary love language. One point I'd like to make is something that the author Gary Chapman mentions in his book, is that although on one side we do have to acknowledge which are our primary love languages, we have to acknowledge what our partner's primary love languages are. And there's a difference between receiving our love language and pouring into our partner's love language. And that's where there's got to be compromise in the relationship, because it can be difficult if one person, let's say me, my last language, the love language that's ranking dead last is physical touch. And let's say I meet someone whose primary love language is physical touch. So there's gonna have to be some sort of compromise on my part to be able to fulfill my partner's love language, so he doesn't feel neglected or unwanted or undesirable. But that's a compromise that has to be made on both parts, because you can be willing, let's say you're dating someone whose first love language is gifts. So you're like, okay, well, I gotta have a budget. Not necessarily, because gifts can be in different forms. It could be something, something as small as like, oh, I bought you some candy today, or I bought you some chocolate, or here's.
But you gotta ask your partner if that counts as a gift. Because if you thinking, you buying a whole bunch of little chocolates and stuff, and this person like, God damn, try to get me fat. Like, this ain't no gift. I don't want this.
I get it. But for sure, there's got to be an understanding as to what constitutes as a gift to that person.
Simple girls like us like chocolate and candy. It's fine.
Listen, food.
And food. Anything food related.
There you go.
But that's a good point. That's a good point that you're making. But there's always got to be a conscious effort in everything that's done when you want to pour into someone's love language. You might not like. It might be difficult for someone to say words of affirmations all the time. So you're like, okay, what kind of words of affirmation can I start telling that person that don't feel that awkward for me, but that the person will still feel validated when I say these words? There are ways to find to accommodate your partner, to be able to make them feel wanted, make them feel desirable, make them feel that you love them, little gestures that you can find that that translate into their love language. It seems tricky when I was reading the book, because the book gives like examples of like fictitious couples or whatever. And there could be a couple that's like, well, last week I bought my wife a Mercedes and she's still mad at me. And he's like, but that's a Mercedes, I love gifts. And then it's like, well, her primary love language is quality time. She says you work all the time and you never spend time together to like play board games or watch your favorite TV show together. That's what she really wants. And he's like, oh, okay. Those are some of the examples that they have in the book. So that's like a way for us we can find ways to accommodate our lovers, love interests, love language. It is tricky, but it requires conscious effort. So to continue on that topic, what would you say are the main actions that fill up your love tank? We'll start with Dinny. Other than like acts of service, but if you could go into detail, was there a particular like situation where you felt that your love tank was filled? And also, could you give us a situation where someone's action or words depleted your love tank?
Wow. Let's see.
That's a tough one. I'll let you go first.
Well, thank you. You're so chivalrous.
No problem. Such a gentleman.
I would say a specific action that fills up my love tank. So with acts of service, I'd say, anything that I don't want to do myself, like I'm pretty handy in terms of everything. So anything that I do not want to do myself, just because I don't feel like it, I'm being lazy, I want to concentrate my time on something else. If my partner, parents, brother wants to like go ahead and do it, then that for me fills up my tank. Like I like the fact that, for example, I'm at home and I was gone on vacation and I bought the set of chairs, right? So I had to return one and then buy the next one when it came in stock. And my brother actually just went to the store and picked it up for me. So just...
She got it.
I think we lost her. Dinny? Dinny? Lost you. Can you hear us?
Come back to us.
Come back to us. You were saying something interesting. Come back.
So sorry. Yeah, my battery died. My battery died. I have a work computer that does not run on its own, apparently. Okay.
We're talking about you went on vacation, you ordered the set of chairs and you took care of that. So how did that make you feel?
It made me feel great. It actually made me feel great because first of all, I did not have to go to the store myself and like wait in line, go through the aisles, pick it up, and then, drive back. I did not pay for it, which is another plus.
Always.
And then, and then just getting home and finding the chair there was like just a pick me up in my, like I was already in a good mood because I had been so relaxed from the week, but like coming home and I'm like, oh, yay, the chair is there. So it kind of, things like that fill me up, right? It always makes me happy. The same with quality time, right? Like if I have a friend that just calls me up, is like, oh, listen, are you busy? Like I'm dropping by, it's not planned. There's nothing, prepared out of it. They'll just show up with like a bottle of wine or like a bag of chips, like just spend like 15, 30 minutes, an hour with me. That kind of fills me up and just, makes me feel good all around. What depletes my love tank is, I'd say maybe it would be still in the quality time category, but like, when sometimes like you feel like the ask to spend time with the person is just like such a burden. And, like they're there and you're like, oh my God, like, okay, like, I'll just go. It's fine. I didn't know you were that busy. They don't, take the time to like sit down with you or anything like that. They put you in a corner and like, oh, I'll be back. I have this to do. I have this to do. And they barely take the time to like sit down and talk or just like sit down and watch a movie. They're on the phone all the time. All that kind of quality time kind of like leaves me wanting for more. Right. And it kind of leaves me on, a bit on edge, not on edge, but like, I'm like,
Yeah.
It doesn't feel good afterwards.
I get it. Sam? Oh, wait.
Oh,
Okay, you answer the question.
I answered both. Thank you. Don't try that.
Okay, my bad. Sam, go ahead.
I've really been over here thinking hard. Something that always fills my tank. So for me, it's family. Because I've always kind of felt isolated because I live in a different state than the majority of my family. So the family that I've grown up with, we've spent birthdays, holidays, blah, blah. So whenever I'm with my family or somebody that feels like family, you know how like your friends become your family almost too. So those moments are moments that I know I'll never get back. And those moments are like, it's you can't put a price, it's priceless. Like you can't, it doesn't have to be something major. It doesn't have to be something big. Like you said, just 15 minutes of like, oh, I'm just stopping by to hang out. You never know what could happen. So like those moments are moments you'll never get back. And you can say, we just spent 15 minutes together and it was wonderful. And, you have good memories of people. Something that depletes me, words. You can say the wrong thing and I'm totally like, okay, well, yeah, I'm done off of it. Like everything could be right, but you could say the wrong thing and I'm just like, all right, whatever.
What kind of wrong words?
So say say we're having a conversation and say I'm telling you something and then you say something back to me that tells me that you're not listening to me. Then I'm like, okay, well, whatever, or a lot of people try to hurt with their words. Like you can say things that intentionally try to hurt people. So anytime something like that, or it's not really I hear something and I'm just whatever, but it's how you use your words in moments, then it's okay, well, that can kind of deplete me. I don't think you can really get a bad gift because it's not a gift if you don't like it. That's how I'm interpreting it. If I don't like it, then it's not a gift. The same with those socks that you used to get. You're like, oh, I didn't like it. Well, I got them, but I'm not claiming it as one of my gifts. Your parents could never give you socks on Christmas, and you'd be like, yeah, man, my gift. That's not till you're older and you realize the value in socks and
oh my gosh.
Yeah. Then you're like, can somebody just give me socks when I was 12 and I didn't want
and bed sheets.
Yeah. Oh yes.
My mom is big on those.
Well, tell mom, she ever wants to send something, to the States. I got king size.
Make a little mention, honorable mention to my mom. Every year, my sisters and I get PJs and we lose our minds. It's like we're guests on Oprah, and it's you get pajamas. We lose our minds. We're PJ.
We're in the age of comfort, It's
it is. Yeah, we are.
If I can sleep comfortably, I need some good sheets. I don't need just some sheets. Let me get some good ones.
Yeah.
That's why. That's why we don't buy them, because
it's too expensive.
Yeah, those good ones. Yeah, you're gonna call them something good.
You just tell your mom, "Oh, mom, I went to the store. I saw the sheets and stuff like that." And next thing you know, they just show up.
Yep.
Best way to go. You tell her, "Oh man, I saw those sheets.
I wasn't sure."
Yeah.
Wasn't
those sheets.
And then next thing you know, they pop up. Same thing with PJs. You're like, my PJs are all done. They're they're loose, and then
slide it in. My trick is I always say I only have one. That's my trick. I'm like, man, I only got one little sheet set, one little thing. I only got one set of pajamas or something like that. You can't just have one. You know what I mean? You can't just.
What do you mean you have one?
That's my thing. And I only got one, man.
And then your mom hooks you up and you got 3 now. You're like, thank you, mom.
She bought all 3. Yeah.
All right. I want to go back to one point you made, Sam, when you were saying that, let's say that you're having a conversation with someone, everything's going great, and then that person says something that shows that they weren't listening to you. It's funny because that taps into your primary love language, quality time. You know, the quality time you spend with someone is having their undivided attention.
Yep.
Attention.
If you're spending time with that person, you're having a conversation, you're talking about something that's really dear to your heart or something, and that person kind of shrugs off or says something really generic, that will throw you off. You know, it's kind of disappointing because you're like, you know, I'm giving you my undivided attention, I'm telling you something that's important to me or something that I value, and you're not completely there with me.
Yeah.
You're not grasping the moment.
Exactly. And that's exactly something that depletes my love tank. And it's funny because Luni, you said exactly what I was thinking. You know, feeling that having to spend quality time with someone is a burden.
The
You know,
attitude.
it's unfortunate because what fills my tank is spending quality time with my girls. You know, I could just pop up at one of my friends' place, like just like impromptu, whatever. And then another friend shows up, and then another one, and then another one brings food. So we're like, it's a vibe, you know, those are the moments.
Now it's a party. Yeah.
But those are little moments that to me, like, they fill my tank. And I just love it because it feels, especially now with the second wave, I don't know if we're starting a third wave or whatever, but when I think back on those times where I was able to meet up with my girls, you know, and, you know, we would meet up, but, you know, we were late,
Just chilling.
casual, but it was still a vibe. And it's those vibes that really fills me up. So when I'm in situations when I'm with someone and asking them to spend quality time with me or just to hang out and asking them, it feels like such a heavy burden. And the way they react to me asking, it feels like I'm asking them to
Give you the world.
world. And that really sucks because I'm like, yo, it kind of makes me feel unwanted. It makes me feel like my presence is a disturbance to you. Like it's bothersome for you to dedicate time for me to be there in the present, to be there with me, like to have your undivided attention. And that really depletes my tank. And unfortunately, the guy in the poem, The Words You Speak, was kind of like that. I mentioned in the previous episode that this guy ended up ghosting me.
Yeah.
So this guy, he was working on his own thing. He was grinding on whatever he was doing. And at some point, it felt that just spending quality time with him was like such a heavy burden, you know? And I would like to segue into the other poem that explains the polar opposite of the first one. The second poem, it really explains how it illustrates like moments where two of the love languages that I had were fulfilled. And then the poem also explains how hurtful it was to not have those love languages fulfilled anymore. You know, it's like the duality of receiving something and enjoying it, and then at some point it just disappears and it makes you feel like crap. So I will read to you the first and second stanza of the poem that I aptly titled Do Not Resuscitate. All right. So the first stanza, I catch myself reminiscing on moments we shared, how I fit perfectly in your arms, how every hug expressed more than words could say, how being with you lit up my day, how being with me eased your worries. And then I'm brought back to reality. What we had can never be. When I slip back into nostalgia, I must remind myself that I signed a waiver featuring a picture of you and me. In bright red, I checked, do not resuscitate. to protect me from future heartache. So overall, the poem demonstrates really the hurt that happens when someone's primary love languages are neglected. When you think about that, when do you know when it's time to let someone go? We'll start with you, Sam.
I don't think you ever know, right? When I was younger, I feel like I was in and out of a lot of relationships, because that was just the thing to do. You know, it was like, okay, well, be in and out. And then as I got older, more mature, it was, okay, well, you know, you don't give up on relationships so easily, and you kind of work through things and you kind of grow with that person. And that kind of ideal came about relationships and kind of started forming the way that, you know, when you come up against a hardship, you're not easily just, all right, I'm done, right? Because people grow, people, you know, change, and people develop. And so I think that's another thing, because you'll never, and that's the reason you'll never know, because the person who you have today could be somebody totally different 20 years down the line, you know? And I think we've had those instances where, you know, maybe somebody from our past has resurfaced and you're like, dang, this isn't the same person. Like, yeah, this is who I wanted you to be, like, when we were together, you know? So I don't think you ever really know, you know? I think it's a thing of, is this good for me and where I'm going in my life right now type thing? Or is it a thing of something that I can deal with, you know? Because for the most part, who somebody is who they're going to be. I tell people that, like, about women, like, mostly. I say the woman she is who she's going to be. So it's like the things that you're claiming, you know, are irritating you, she's going to challenge you in those same ways for the next 30, 40 years. Like, so if you can't handle those challenges now, then that's probably not the person for you, because it's a matter of what can I deal with for a length of time, not just what fits me today, because, you know, happiness is fleeting, you know, it comes and it goes. So you can't just say, oh, this person makes me happy, this person doesn't make me happy. It's like, okay, can I grow with this person long term? Even in areas where you feel like, even in times where you feel like you're not growing, like, you know, like those are the real moments, you know, like the down moments and the bad moments where you like maybe you feel stuck. It's like, yo, is this somebody that I can go through those real moments with? You know, I think a lot of people put on a pedestal, like, you know, affairs and cheating and stuff like that. I think people put those so high in the bad things that go on in relationships, but people grieve together, people lose children, people lose parents, people lose partners, you know? It's like, who can I go through those moments with? Because you're not going to be thinking about sex, you're not going to be thinking about what somebody looks like, you're not going to be thinking about anything. It's like, yo, when I'm down in my luck and I really don't got nobody, who am I going to know is going to be in my corner no matter what it's about? So I don't think you could ever really know when it's a time to let go. I think it's whether you're going to do it or not. Like, either you're going to break up with her or not, dude. Like, you're not going to keep talking about it and keep threatening to leave, because that ultimately creates resentment. You end up hurting each other. And then when you see that person, it's a matter of like, ugh, like, you know what I mean? Now they have to like get that distaste off of them for you so that they can heal. You know what I mean? You could have just ended it like, yo, I'm not feeling this. Boom, own your shit. And, you know, I think it's one of those things you just have to own. Like, it's not like I know, it's a, all right, I broke up, I gotta own it. Like, it is what it is. And if it comes back around, maybe it has do not resuscitate, or, you know, I try to leave my situations with a resuscitate, you know, just, you know, I don't like to leave bad blood or burn bridges. I like to leave mine with a little, you know, open box. Like, you know, if it works out for us in the future, maybe. Yeah, I don't like to be hated. No, I don't think any guy likes to be the one that wants to be hated. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it happens more often than not, you know, unfortunately. But for me, I've had to put a do not resuscitate on certain past relationships because of how these relationships made me feel. They made me feel neglected. They made me feel that I was being taken for granted, you know. it was the accumulation of little acts that demonstrated that the value that I had in that guy's eye wasn't high enough, in my opinion. Like, he wasn't appreciating me. He didn't really value me as much as I needed to be valued, or that I felt that that I valued myself. So those were instances where I was like, I have to put a DNR on this, because if I keep pursuing that relationship, if I stay in that relationship, or if I even contemplate, resuscitating that, it will only bring more heartbreak, Linsay, what do you think?
Well, for me, learning how to let go, it's really just, it's about how you feel in that relationship. You have to really take stock of like who you were when you started, who you are in the relationship, and who you've become so far, and analyze if this is something that you need to stick around and fight for, or just take a bow and exit as graciously as possible before like it turns sour. Because a lot of times that's what happens when you have, for example, relationships that go on for like a year or two, and then technically by year 2 things should have been over, but like nobody's taking stock of their feelings and just staying together out of like convenience. And by year 3, like, you guys are like pulling each other's hair out. Like, no, like this should have been done like a year ago, if only. And I think that's one of the things that is really lacking in relationship, is that constant communication. Like, how when you start seeing somebody, you guys are constantly communicating, constantly talking, letting them know what works for you, like the good things they're doing, the things that bother you a little. You'll address them. It's things that you address right away, but like as time goes on, you stop doing this with each other. So at some point, you are just like accumulating this like list of grievances with the other person, and they're doing the same. And then like one day, things hit the fan and one of you explodes, and then there's no going back from that a lot of times. So I think for me, what has been one of the principles is, as soon as I feel like I am not happy, mind you, it's not that I need a man to make me happy, but if I don't feel like fulfilled in a relationship, I feel like I feel a weight, I feel a burden being with somebody, and even though like I'll generally try to talk to you, I'll let you know, like we should, for example, if we're not spending enough time with each other, I'll ask you, like, oh, can we do this? I'll try to schedule time together, just to kind of like, sometimes you have to like take the initiative, right? And ask for what you need. And if after doing those little things, it's not working and I've spoken to you already, then I'll just take myself out. I'm not going to yell at you. Like, we're both adults. We can talk to each other. It's been good, homie. See you, and next time I see you in the streets, hi, how you doing? How's your life? How's work doing? Oh, you got a new girl. Good for you. Good luck to her. I'm out.
One point you made, Linsay, was taking stock of our feelings. You also mentioned that oftentimes in relationship, we'll be like building this list of grievances that we have. We'll be able to not only like create a sort of mental note for ourselves about like all the things that our partner is not doing right. Like, oh, he never takes me out. He's always on his cell phone. He's always spending time with his boys, blah, blah, blah. And then we'll communicate these lists of grievances to our friends.
Yeah.
That can also affect the relationship, because the image that you project of your relationship to your friends is of one that is like problematic, that is unfulfilling. And then you also kind of paint a portrait of your partner as someone who isn't able to fulfill your basic needs So that can be.
And your friend just might be hating.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
And then you look dumb when you stay in that relationship. Your friend is like, so why you keep bashing the guy though?
Yeah.
It's so true. And unfortunately, it happens a lot. And that causes a lot of resentment. And I remember, I know it's really silly, but one of my favorite movies is The Wedding Singer. And at some point, early in the movie, when Adam Sandler's fiance doesn't show up at the wedding, and then I know he was at his sister's house, and he was talking to his brother-in-law, and they were basically bashing the girl, and he was saying stuff like, oh, stop bashing her because when we get back together, it's going to be awkward. They didn't end up getting back together, but it's just to show how
Briefly.
to show how damaging it is to portray your partner in a negative light, when you're having issues. I don't know if you guys remember that song from Genuine, None of Your Friends' Business.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That, in my opinion, we should adhere to. There are certain things that you should keep to yourself. I'm not saying it's bad to confide yourself to your friends. Your friends can share wisdom. They can be a support, when you're going through a rough patch in your relationship. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about constantly bashing your man or your girl to your friends. And then your friends are like, you still with her? Like, girl? Like, I up. Because that will ultimately affect how you perceive your relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the words you speak to others about your relationship will affect your relationship. And if you kind of, if you can find a way to hold back the criticism, the negative criticism, not the constructive criticism. There can be constructive criticism in a relationship. You can make like observation, but if all you say is negative things about your relationship, I mean, what's there to value? Like, if you focus all the time on the negative stuff, like, what's the positive stuff? Why are you still with that person?
Yeah.
So it's good that that you were mentioning, Dinny, that you got to communicate with your partner about, like, you got to take stock of how you feel, of how your relationship is going, or how your relationship is evolving, or how your relationship is regressing, because it could happen. You could become stagnant in your relationship. There could be times where, at first you guys were all lovey-dovey, like the first few years, and at some point you're like, well, we never go out anymore.
And
you never tell me it's pretty.
And it's also evaluating, how and recognizing, how both of you are changing as well, because, a relationship is two people, but it's one and the other. So while, the purpose of being with somebody is to evolve together, you have to like still realize that both of you don't necessarily drive at the same speed. So while you are going through the same destination, you won't arrive there at the same time. So you have to like also address the fact that, maybe my partner is going through something. Maybe there's something that needs to be addressed in his or my life that is kind of like putting a strain on the relationship also.
Absolutely. And one point I'd like to make, and it's funny that you should mention that, is kind of misinterpreting how your partner is acting, or misinterpreting the fact that your partner isn't able to fulfill a love language. You don't necessarily have to jump to a conclusion that, okay, well, he doesn't love me anymore, or he's so selfish. Maybe he's going through something that he's not able to communicate. Communication in a relationship is key, but it's also very difficult.
It's an art.
That's another love language. Communication is a love language.
It seems so like basic, but it's the basis of having a lasting relationship and a fulfilled relationship. Being able to communicate your needs, or communicate when you're going through some stuff, because it's easy to jump to conclusions. You can make all kinds of scenarios in your head about what's really going on in your relationship. If the other person is becoming distant, not necessarily because they're not attracted to you, but maybe they're dealing with a lot at work. Maybe they feel a lot of pressure at work to perform, or they're working on a big project that's very time consuming, but emotionally draining. You know, maybe they're up for a promotion and things aren't looking that great for them and they're stressing out about it, but they just don't know how to communicate it. You know, in some couples, maybe a wife will not want her husband to touch her because, you know, she doesn't feel attractive. She feels like she gained weight, or maybe she has her post-baby body and she's like, don't touch me. Like, don't even like look at me.
All this is your fault.
I feel like a whale, like, do not touch me, like, leave me alone. And her husband is trying to communicate his love language to her, but she's not responsive, not because she's not attracted to him, but because she doesn't feel attractive. So she kind of closed the door for him to pour into that love language or to express his love language. So it's very important to have communication in the relationship, but like we said, it's an art that needs to be developed, that needs to, like, you need to put effort into it, and you got to be willing to just open that door to, you know, sit down, have a conversation about how you're feeling. And maybe for women, maybe I'm generalizing, but it's easier. I feel it's easier for women to just go on and say, well, I feel neglected. Like, I have a hard time, maybe I'm narrow-minded, but I have a hard time like seeing a guy saying, you know what, I feel neglected. I feel like you are not physically attracted to me anymore.
Yeah,
No,
if a guy gets to the point where he's saying that,
it's already over.
It's been over. Like, it's almost to the point where like it should have never started. Like, because I feel like that doesn't happen, you know? Like, I feel like when a woman like gets with a man, she's not, that attraction is there, you know, that like lust is almost there. It's like, you got to be doing some really, really poor job at things for her to like lose that lust for you, you know, like to lose that allure, because the man chooses, like this, like the saying says, a man chooses a wife, you know what I mean? Like, ultimately she has a choice in that too as well, but I think it's like she feels something deep about you, which is why she's with you, you know? So if you lost that like allure almost, then it's like, yeah, that should have probably never even like happened. I don't know what you did, buddy, but yeah, she's been gone. She's been trying to find that allure again for a long time, and before she finally got up out of there. So yeah, it's been.
She checked out long time ago.
Long time ago.
But she checked out long time ago. Yeah. I want to ask you, Sam, do you think you've been able to better communicate your needs over the years with your love interests?
Yeah, I think it's a thing of practice. I still think I struggle with, you know, communicating, because there's a thin line, and I don't want to speak for all men, but I think for men, I think it's a thin line of communicating my needs and being needy. I think a lot of times when we say we need things, it's like, damn, like, no, needy self, like, you know what I mean? But I think it's like, that's like all we know, you know? I think we get to the point where like when we finally communicate that we need something, it's like the bubbling point, you know? It's like the breaking point. Like, we could have easily communicated this thing over, you know, the last month, but we kind of built it up and we didn't say anything, and like, we left hints, but you didn't get the hints. And now it's like, well, like, you know, now we're blowing up at each other, because I don't think we have the practice of doing that where it's like received and, you know, expressed back, you know, that it's been received in like a positive way. I think a lot of times when like men do that, it's like a negative thing, you know, it's a negative connotation behind it. So I think over the years I've been becoming better. I would like to say that I've become better. I still know I have my little struggling points, but yeah, we're getting there, you know.
Right.
Now I just need the right person, you know, to go through that communication journey with me.
All right. You heard it first, ladies. You heard it first.
Teach me how to communicate.
Sam is open for communication.
You got to be willing to learn too, though, right? Like you got to be willing to learn, because even if I communicate, say I want to motivate you, so I'm like pushing you and motivate and thinking that I'm motivating you, but you don't receive it that way, then you got to kind of teach me how to communicate in ways that it's received well, and it's not defensive when I say certain things, and we're not arguing about something that I thought I was doing in a good way. So
right, it's all in the delivery.
Yeah.
You don't want to seem like you're accusing the person of not doing something. You want to say how you feel. You want to communicate it, but there's a way to word it for it to be better received by the person. Dinny, would you how have you, like, do you think that you're a better communicator of your needs in relationships now that you're more seasoned?
So not. You know what? It's funny because yes, I am more seasoned. And with that, I kind of feel like I still lack the experience just because of the type of relationships I've had in the past years. And but I would say in some aspects, yes, I'm able to be a lot clearer in what I need and what I want and all that stuff. But then, like, I'm the type of person, if I tell you once, I'm not repeating it again. So then after a while, if I kind of see things are derailing, I'm like, just like, okay. Like, and the same thing in reverse. If you tell me one thing, I'll just stick to that because, I figure exactly. Well, I'll also figure, if this is what you're communicating to me, well, I should listen to it, take that into account. And, if things starts to change, because for me, like Sam had said earlier, like the words you speak are like super important. And for me, it's always been one of my things, like your word is bond. If you tell me something, it is not my role, or it's not my responsibility to kind of figure out if it's true or not, right? You're saying it's because you mean it. So if you say one thing and then down the line you're acting a different way, or you're suddenly saying something else, then in my mind I'm like, yeah, that person just doesn't know what they want, so I'm not gonna communicate necessarily if that doesn't work for me anymore or not. Like, I'll try to get you to kind of come out with what you want, because it'll happen, especially with guys. Sometimes they'll tell you one thing but they mean something else, and then no, I said sometimes it'll happen the same with women. It's both the same side. It's two sides of the same coins. It's the same problem. So they'll say one thing but mean something else, and then when like the relationship changes or like something drops off and you start asking questions and they say, well, this is what I meant. And you're like, okay, so why didn't you just say that right from the start? It would have like been so much easier to deal with each other if you had just been upfront and honest. So yeah.
I think our issue comes right where you guys tell us what works, and then we don't deviate. We're like, oh, like she likes this, cool, boom, boom. This is an instant win, and we think that this instant win doesn't change. And then maybe you're like, oh, well, I like this now, or we don't really grasp the fact that it's changed. I think that's where the men have the issues. It's like, we know something that works, so we're expecting that thing to be like concrete. We don't really
concrete for every girl.
Forever. Like, yeah, give us the easy wins so we can win. We lose win sometimes, so we need those guarantees.
Those easy ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, so it's really just it's still a learning process. It's in progress. That's the only thing I can say.
I agree. I'm learning to better communicate. It's difficult because, just like you, Sam, I don't want to seem needy. It's difficult to just try to come up with the right words to express to someone like, okay, I'd like to spend more time with you. You know, unfortunately I've been in situations before where just asking like something basic, and the way that message was received, it was so disappointing.
Yeah.
So disappointing. So it made it difficult for me to just want to express anything that I was dealing with. But I have learned that, you know, I have to say what's on my heart. Like I have to, or else nothing's gonna change. The situation will not get better. The relationship will not evolve. One thing that I did learn over the years is that men are not mind readers. Men don't take hints. You gotta tell them like
straight up.
Straight up.
That scene in the Notebook when
Oh yeah, what do you want?
he asked you, what do you want? And she's like, I don't know. Well, we have to know what we want so we can better express it. And we have to express it in a way that is very explicit.
Precise, clear, and succinct.
This is the part that gets me. This is the part that gets, and I'm speaking for the men on this one, because I know my brothers are going to feel me when I say this.
Please do.
I feel like y'all don't know what y'all want. Like, okay, so take quality time, for example, right? Now, place that with the type of man you want. So let's just say you want a successful man, you want, a man with some success. Let's say he's earned success. With success comes no time. And if you're dealing with a man who's spending 6, 5, maybe even 4 hours with you a day, then he's not the man you want, because he has too much time on his hands. He has too much time on his hands. You think about it. Anybody that you've known with success, they don't have time. They're not sitting around for 10 hours watching Netflix. They're not like, they are, which sucks, because I think as men, we have this idea where we want to be that type of man for women, and I think we often date during, that progression, like women say, when men are like, oh, why you date older men? It's because they've already reached a level of progression that now they have time to like really kind of designate, when you're on that journey of success, when you're trying to get there. I think men are giving away their value, because it's like, you're spending time with this girl, but you ain't got the time. Like, you're not where you need to be. You probably shouldn't be dating, but then again, you don't want to be alone. Like, I think we have that constant battle within us, because we're like, they say they want this type of guy, but this type of guy ain't their age. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this type of guy isn't like on their level. Like, it's either you're gonna go with me and like, let's get to this type of guy, which comes with, sometimes we're not going to have time. Sometimes it's going to be that struggle of finding like a balance, but that's the growth that comes with it, right? Or you could just bypass that and say, you know what, I'm going to go find a guy who has time, but he's probably going to be 15, 20 years older than you, because he is going to take that time to, progress. That's why people say you grind in your 20s, you live in your 30s, or, you grind in your 30s, and as you get older in age, you have more time to enjoy it, the fruits of your labors. Like, at this point, I can't just make somebody a stay-at-home where they ain't got no worries in the world. You know what I mean? Like, I would love to. I wish I could. I wish I was like able to do that. But the average man isn't going to be able to do that and uphold this successful lifestyle that comes with that until he's, progressed in age. And sometimes that just comes with age. Sometimes you get lucky and you hit the lotto. I ain't got that lucky yet, but it comes with age. And that's why I say I think it struggles, because it's like, they really don't know what they want, because the guy they want doesn't exist at 26, at
but
27.
In reverse, like, is it really about what they want or what they really need, right?
That's a want versus need type of thing. Yeah.
Like, you say you want the successful person, but you need somebody who's going to spend time with you. So somewhere along the line, there's like a confusion there. And the same for the men too. Like, men will say, I want a woman that stays at home, but then you kind of gripe and like feel all type of way if she's like spending all your money and she's not working.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. But see, that comes back to the lifestyle. Like you should be at a level where you progress with her staying at home spending some money shouldn't kill you. You know what I mean? Like if that's the type of lifestyle that you're offering her, like don't offer her a lifestyle like that with a budget. You know, like you can't do those type of things. Like you can't say, oh, you can stay at home and not do anything, but you basically got to live off $20,000 for the year because you're like, shit, I can go make that myself and work like for all that, you know. So I think it comes down to like being honest with like whether you should be dating or not. Like, and sometimes that's the hardest possible pill to swallow. But if you're going check to check, you probably shouldn't be dating anybody. You know what I mean? You like if you're struggling financially, if you don't have a budget, you probably shouldn't be dating anybody. At least not seriously. And if you're not gonna be dating seriously, then tell her you're not gonna be dating seriously. And allow her to like at least know that going in. It's like, yo, I'm just doing this because I need to get out the house. Like, I ain't looking for no wife. I ain't ready for no wife yet. I'm just trying to go get something to eat. Be honest, like upfront with that, because I think that helps the situation as well. But take a look at yourself and really discuss, like, can I maintain a household? Can I maintain a wife and kids and stuff like that? Because that comes with dating. Like, so if you can't do that, chances are you probably should.
Be out.
Should probably be at the crib trying to figure out a way to make some more money and get to that lifestyle.
You all make really valid points.
We're getting kicked off again?
No.
Oh, all right.
It's not. I'd like to know, Sam, what do you want in a relationship?
Ooh.
In a relationship, at this point in life right now, what I want in a relationship is friendship. Because I don't feel like I've ever been in a relationship where we were friends. But that also comes to like, that's on my fault, right? Because if I would have pursued it as friendship first and not thought of it as a romantic thing, then we could have probably developed that friendship. But I think when people want to get to know people, especially with the opposite sex, it's always instantly a romantic thing. It's a sexual thing. It's an attraction thing. It's like, okay, like I told a friend of mine, I said, I probably ruined a lot of relationships that could have been fruitful for my life because of sex. Like, because I didn't go into that person as a friend. And then once the relationship ended, I didn't have access to them anymore. You know, where people could have like changed my life, maybe possibly because of people they've known or things that they've done, because we weren't friends, you know. And I just got tired of like getting out of situations and like people are like, oh, well, y'all not friends, y'all not still cool. And I'm like, nah, like, because we weren't friends to begin with. We was lovers and that's it. Like, you know what I mean? So I think right now I'm just looking for a friend. And I know for me, I'm struggling with the battle of allowing somebody to be a friend from the opposite sex, but not taking advantage of that friendship. Like, because women friends do stuff for you. Like, y'all be looking out, like, for real. Y'all hold it down. Like, y'all better than male friends to a certain extent. Like, because y'all, like, do
Absolutely.
stuff. So it's like, I think I'm struggling with, okay, like, this person's doing this as a friend versus, like, this person's doing this hoping that hopefully it'll be romantic and stuff like that. So, you know, I struggle with, like, letting people do things. Even I already struggle with that. So this already, like, is out of my comfort zone, but I think it'll help with some growth and some understanding. So yeah, that's what I need right now. If you can't be my friend, then we can't really be nothing at this point in life.
It's a good goal.
All right. Ludney, what do you want in a relationship?
Oh my God. That's a good question. I'm still trying to figure that out, actually. I'd say like Sam, friendship is a really important thing for me. And that's like a staple. I can't say that, you know, all my past relationships have ended badly, but I have like still a cordial relationships with my ex, you know, with some of them. we're able to like call each other, just checking into each other's lives, see how they're doing, things like that. But like Sam said, like, it is such a hard thing to meet somebody from the opposite sex and just cultivate that friendship aspect first. And I remember like a friend of mine, she was telling me, she kind of like analyzed me, and she was like, she told me, like, you approach a lot of relationships with the attraction first. And she's like, you should take your time and get to know somebody and really like build up that friendship. And then later on, if things should be going to that relationship realm, then it'll go there, naturally. And it's not going to be forced. It's not going to bring you any heartache or anything like that. So I'm guessing I'm really just looking for a relationship that will not complete me, but like maybe stabilize me a little. I'm kind of already in a path for myself where I want to be, where I'm becoming more solid in the woman that I am. So I just need like a partner who's going to be able to like, kind of, I know in French, they call it the témoin for like the plants. So the plant is growing, and then there's always this stick sometimes next to it that helps it grow straight, but it doesn't impede it from growing. The plant is doing what it needs to do. But there's that stick there that's there just in case it needs to stay straight. So that's kind of like the type of partner that I'm looking for.
Can I make a public service announcement to the ladies out there?
Please.
Worried.
If your pursuit, no, this is like an honest thing, because I feel like it's something that men have seen. Like, we've all heard it's like this finesse culture, and like, I think it's a situation of men feeling taken advantage of in dating situations these days. If your pursuit is of a friendship level, say that, like you said, maybe you're not interested yet, or maybe you feel like this guy is doing stuff, reciprocate early and often, so that you can always say to yourself, I didn't take advantage of this person, or I didn't lead this person on, and then that person doesn't feel taken advantage of. Because you can say, yo, this was a friendship, like, I've reciprocated this friendship just as much as you have. And maybe it doesn't have to be on the same level, because I know, like, if I'm out with my friends and she's like, oh, I might pay, I'm like, no, I got it, like, just the man in me might do that, So it's like, I would say reciprocate early and often, so that, the fellas don't feel like they're being taken advantage of either.
Makes sense.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. I would say, since you guys explained what you are looking for, I think it's fair that I should also.
Of course.
Let them know.
I do know what I want. I always know what I want. That's the thing. I've never, like, whenever guys say stuff like, oh, women, you don't know what you want, well, I never feel that that's directed at me, because I always know what I want, and I don't want things that are like far-fetched, what I'm looking for, it's a bit like you, Sam. I'm looking like for friendship first. I'm looking for a homie that can become a boo.
Exactly.
And that's something that I have to say, I cherish all the male friendships that I have. Every single one of my male friends add something to my life. They add a perspective that I've like, that to me is very valuable. So I cherish the male friendship and what it stands for. So I want that with the romantic aspects. And I think that, unfortunately, I've been in many situations where I would meet a guy, or a guy would approach me and he would have intentions to be like involved romantically with me, but I was only able to reciprocate the attention because I was just seeking male friendship out of him. It's unfortunate because
it was one-sided.
It was one-sided. I wasn't, it's not that I felt bad that I wasn't physically attracted to that person or that I didn't want to pursue a romantic relationship with that person. It's just that the way that I perceived them was only on the friendship level. So I wasn't able to reciprocate any sort of feelings, or whenever that person would try to initiate, like, okay, let's go out, let's do this and that, I was always like, I was hesitant because I knew that that person had something more romantically inclined in mind, you know? And that kind of sucked because for a long time, that's the only kind of situations that I found myself in. So, but I'm still sticking to like finding a homie that can become a boo. And it's feasible. And like I said, like, I always knew what I wanted out of a relationship. The basic things for me, I have to have that quality time, you know? And I really like the point you made, Sam, when you said that, you know, when women are looking for a mate that is seeking success or working on their grind, they will not necessarily have all the time in the world to like talk on the phone or hang out or do activities or whatever. And we have to take that into consideration, you know, if we have to kind of reevaluate what we want. Like, do we want to stay with that guy, or do we want to go for the guy who's older, who has more time, or the guy who's like the same age, but he's kind of like, you know, he's there, he's available. Yeah. You know, and that's not fair. That's not fair for the other guy.
Never settle.
You know, never settle. So that's really, like, to me, what you said, that was food for thought, because for sure I'm looking for someone who is on their grind, because I'm like that, you know, I'm a go-getter. So it would be nice to be with someone who's a go-getter, but I also have to be aware that a go-getter is out getting things, so he doesn't have time, you know, to watch TV, talk on the phone or whatever, just hang out at random times of the day. So that for me was really food for thought. And I think that will be also good advice for the people watching and listening to this podcast. As we end this episode, this very interesting conversation is coming to an end, unfortunately. I would like to know if you guys had any final words of wisdom to share with our audience.
Am I going first?
You can.
Of course.
Talk as much as you can, and be intentional. That's it. Just talk and be intentional. I think you can get a lot of things done. So
that's great. Ludney?
Well, to what Sam said, I would say be mindful. You know, be mindful of your partner's struggles, daily grievances, and you know, if there's something wrong, address it like right away, or something right too.
That's great advice, and that's something that we can all apply.
Absolutely.
We can do it.
We can.
You know, we are mature adults, you know.
I like to think so.
Yeah.
I don't know yet, but whatever you say.
Working on it.
Yeah. Well, on that note, I want to thank you guys for participating in this episode. Sam, I'd love to see you. I'm so happy to see you.
Thanks for having me. I love it here.
Coming on again.
I wish I could come there.
Well, you know, the border, you know,
it's next year.
Next
2021.
God willing. God willing. And Dinny,
we're projecting.
Dinny, thank you also for being there, for always sharing your wisdom and sharing of your life experience with us. So
my pleasure.
Again, thank you guys. And don't forget to buy your copy of the Alpha Female Chronicles poetry collection on the Friesen Press website.
Go get it.
All right. Thank you guys. Take care. We'll see you in another episode, and God bless.
God bless.
See you guys.